So I just felt compelled to share this interview with you guys. This is Aaron Lewis of the band Stained. If you know them, you know them. Lots of big hits over the years. Anyways, it was definitely one of the bands that I grew up with, looked up to. Probably wouldn't call it my top 5 band, but definitely a band that I sort of really liked and enjoyed. And the reason why this interview really struck a chord with me is because most of my teens and 20s were trying to achieve what Aaron has achieved. So major label deal, touring the US, maybe even touring the world, and basically living the Rockstar lifestyle and having a band that just really blows up and gets popular and, making good money with music essentially. And he's being very candid and very honest and really vulnerable in this interview. I guess as vulnerable as one can be for a public interview. You can kind of read between the lines in what he's saying. And it really just struck me because it reminds me and makes me even more grateful for sync licensing. I always probably have a part of my brain that's a little bit regretful of maybe I gave up too quickly. I had a band, obviously we were definitely meeting with major labels, and basically I felt about to, make it to the big leagues, and we didn't, and we ended up breaking up. And there was always a part of me that was kind of like, man, I think maybe I should have just kept going and tried. But sync licensing just became this, path of least resistance for me, where I was getting contracts and checks, and seeing just actual momentum in my career. Whereas everything else I was doing before felt like I was chasing the clout, chasing the coattails of other people, and begging and hoping somebody would give me a chance, right? So anyways, I just wanted to share this with you, and I won't provide too many comments about it, but I just thought it was really cool. Sad in some ways, of course, but also just really cool that he's being this transparent with us about the life of an artist, of a touring musician, of a major label artist, and what it's really like. Because it might look like one thing to the people on the outside, even to me, even though I do music, full time. But to be on the other side, looking out, it's just really interesting to hear from somebody. So just check out this couple of clips I want to share with you guys. The first one, he's talking about what it's like touring, the life on the road, and some of the sacrifices he had to make being away from his family.
Embrace it. This is my journey. This is why I'm here. This is God's plan for me.
I love that.
And it's cost me a lot. And it's given me a lot.
I'm sure there's sacrifices with being out on the road as much as you have, and going around the world and all that as many times as I'm sure you have.
I've missed most of the meaningful stuff.
Yeah.
That line was basically the sort of kind of arrow in the heart of, like, you could just kind of feel and see all of the missed birthdays and anniversaries and just all the stuff with his family. He did not get to be a part of because he was touring and out on the road. Now, I get it. It's a choice. He doesn't have to do what he's doing. Of course, this isn't, slavery. He obviously can decide to quit, but I bet in many ways he feels like he can't because he's just got such a talent. He's succeeding. He's living the quote unquote dream. He's going to talk about that in another clip here, but just hearing that and having him basically just being honest to say he's missed most of the meaningful moments, I think mostly of his daughter's life, who's now, I think she's 21. Me as a father, a new father, that really struck a chord with me, because I always wonder if I had quote unquote made it, with a band and was touring and was away from my, family and away from my home. There's the positive sides of all that kind of stuff, but boy, is it worth, right? The trade-offs, is the fame, is the money, is the success worth, the meaningful moments? And I think, Aaron, you can kind of see it in what he's saying there and in his eyes, maybe not so much in some ways. So I'm going to show you one more clip here, 1 second. And this is another clip where he's just being very, very real about how lonely he feels. You would think somebody with this many people around him, loving his music, you got to feel on top of the world all the time. Not the case. Let's take a listen.
It has been an extremely lonely adventure. It's really beyond anything that I can explain, because you're surrounded by people. Everybody wants to get to you.
Yep.
But they can't, because of the structure of all of it. And the loneliness is consuming. That's why we all end up so fucked up. We've either turned to drugs, we've turned to alcohol, we've turned to illicit behavior, turned to all these things to fight off the fucking loneliness and emptiness and this void that just keeps growing inside you. You've been pulled away from everything that means anything to you. Your family, your wife, your home, everything is somewhere else. And that emptiness, it just fucking grows. And it consumes you. I don't have to contemplate very hard to understand why so many of my friends aren't here anymore.
So again, as I said, just such a honest telling of how he feels. I mean, this is him telling us essentially he is extremely lonely, he's extremely isolated, and he is so far away from his family. And I would imagine the tricky part of it is that, like, on one side of your life, you are providing such a joyous, amazing, beautiful piece of art to millions of people around the world. And you can see that at the concerts, right? You can see people getting teary-eyed and holding up their lighters and just having a beautiful time, and probably nothing but compliments, nothing but thank yous, and you saved my life. And he's getting that just consistently from all these strangers on the road, right? So part of you feels great. I'm doing something really meaningful and helpful for people. And yet the people that he has the most meaningful connection with, he's furthest away from. So you get this pulling, this tug of war of where can you go with that, right? You feel like you're doing a great service, you feel like you're missing out, and you're not doing what you should be doing with your family. So I would imagine you just kind of feel a little bit lost and trapped and lonely because, on the road with all these faces smiling at you, it might feel good as a sort of temporary high, but it's not a meaningful connection that he's probably getting from, obviously, strangers that he'll see for one night, and then he's off to the next, city. So there's a lot of other amazing stuff he talks about the business, how about it's just even worse than most people think, how it's way more backstabbing, way more political. Also some really amazing just trivia. It's not all sad and gloomy. There's some amazing, really cool just behind the scenes trivia about how the band got signed, how he wrote that song Outside that became one of their biggest hits, how Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit basically discovered them and checked them out. So it's really cool, interesting stuff that I never knew about the band. So I'll link it below if you guys want to check it out. But I think it was just something worth highlighting because we are all, obviously in this community, musicians, producers. Some of us are still, not me, but maybe some of you guys are still out there on the road. You're still out there trying to, chase a sort of lifestyle of trying to, become either more well-known or get more income with your music and that kind of thing. So this is one of these interesting scenarios where, somebody like Aaron, who's really done it all, seen it all, succeeded to the highest levels you probably can in this business, it's kind of a terrible situation for him because who can he go complain to, right? Because he's the sort of guy who made it and has it all and has all the success. So if he's feeling really lonely and isolated, most people go like, roll their eyes like, oh, is it so hard having, platinum albums and having the world scream your name when you walk on stage? And, oh, it must be really hard to be a multimillionaire musician and blah, blah, blah. But it can be. I mean, that's just kind of this weird thing where it's like nobody wants to have space for empathy for people like him because we think that he should have all the answers and have it all figured out. But it's kind of this really cool, for me, what I love about this interview is it kind of like reminded me that there's no path in life without problems, right? We all think that, even if you guys succeed with sync licensing and become full-time, sync licensing producers, there's no path where you have no problems, no challenges, no struggles, no, moments of depression, anxiety, uncertainty, whatever your challenges are, they're going to come along with you for this journey, wherever you are. So there's no getting out of it. You can't get away from problems or struggles. You can probably just try to put yourself in a direction where when the struggles and problems come, you feel like, hey, I chose this path and these are the struggles that I chose to essentially embrace, right? So that's one thing that I hope Aaron can kind of get to that point and realizing that this is a path. He basically hinted at that in the earlier clip where he says that he just embraces it. This is his journey. This is the plan he feels God has for him. And so he's just going to embrace it and it's going to come along with challenges. And so he's doing his best to basically gracefully get through those challenges. But their challenges, right? It's not all roses. It's not all sunshine. So check out the recording, check out the interview. I think it's really worth your guys' time. And I think it was worth, obviously, just talking about these kind of issues because, yeah, we need to kind of look out for each other and make sure that we are not sort of papering over real intense mental health issues that can certainly cost people's lives, as Aaron talked about there.